Dino, Rhino, Beskibbit. What's up, YouTube? Thetajem here with yet another knife video for Packanack Large. This time, it's no surprise I'm doing a walkthrough for cabin knife locations on Map C. Map C goes back to the existence of 20 knives in 21 locations. This walkthrough will show you all 21 possible locations, but it expects some knowledge. So, if you haven't watched my videos titled Packanack Knife Challenge or the walkthroughs for maps A and B, it's a good idea to do that first so you don't get lost. Special thanks once again goes out to Geekboxing for the maps shown here. I couldn't do these videos without these maps, and the website for them is in the description below. Map C has a tight triangle of power boxes all in the Woodbury-ish area, and the phone just so happens to be located in the cabin I always start with. For Map C, this cabin does not have a knife by Hodder's Path, so my morph will be to the opposite side of the cabin. The knives we're after are on the bathroom and just above the phone on the inside. I mosey on out the front door later just to show you that this cabin doesn't have a name, and I'm also waiting for my morph to come back, but 5 of the other cabins do have names, so I'll try not to bore you with stuff you already know. As mentioned, the other knife here is just above the phone, so remember this for your games when you're a counselor too. That way, you don't waste time getting in that life or death call. Now that my morph is back, my plan was to head to the top of Packanack Hill, but don't morph like me, kids, alright? Do better, okay? I don't have the best morph points figured out yet, and that is something worth practicing. The knife that we're after is on the rear of this cabin on its right side. You're probably used to this cabin being across the street. In fact, a few things look different from maps A and B, which is good. These things will help you to identify the map when you're a counselor, as long as you know what to look for. Maps C and D will have a cabin in this spot instead of across the street, and the lone cabin on the windy road now has a friend. From this first cabin, I zigzag back and forth across the street collecting knives. First up is this house here on the right side, and the other knife is always on the opposite corner as we've seen, unless you're on map D, of course, and we'll get to that next time. I usually morph to the second knife at this cabin because I like the morph location. It's right by the knife, and it gives me a straight shot to the cabin across the street. You've seen me do this in other videos. It's a great location to morph to in-game to collect a knife and shift on someone who isn't at all expecting to see you. I do this move a lot. Across the street is my favorite cabin to say out loud, Zane's Shift House. And although you can tell way before I get there that this knife is the one that's missing in this playthrough, I walk right up to where it would be anyway, just so you don't have to pause the video if you're following along. Next door, Pfeiffer Flat. Front left and behind the chair on the inside, remember? Of course you do. Let's morph to Woodbury. Like always, I'll try to start with the cabin with the car. This cabin has 2 knives, and they're both outside this time. This trip to Woodbury will be familiar, and here's why. Hopefully I explained this well enough. No matter what map loads, this first cabin with the car is either Solid Weld Lodge, or it doesn't have a name. When it's Solid Weld, the second cabin at Woodbury has a knife behind the half wall. When there's no name, there's 2 things to remember. First, you can skip the second cabin at Woodbury, and the last cabin will always be Puopolo's cabin. Hopefully that's easy enough to remember. As we know, Puopolo's has knives on the front right and inside the back door. Something else to think about? No matter which map is loaded, this third cabin always has a name. I've gone over the reasons why you should learn the cabin names a ton. It saves time, and if you should start here instead of the usual spot with the car, look at the name. Look at the knife locations if you don't see the name. Know if this is Puopolo's or not, and you'll know if the next cabin over is worth going into if you've got the time to spare. Rant over. Next up are the pair of cabins on the windy road. I get mixed up on the morph, so give me a moment to get straightened out here. The last 2 videos only had 1 cabin in this area, but honestly, no Thetajem knife collection video would be even remotely complete if I didn't fuck up like this, so you knew what you were getting into when you clicked play. I should have just grabbed the knives at that cabin at first, but I didn't, and I could have acted like I meant to do that, but I didn't, and now you know that I record the dialogue after I record the video, so I screwed up. This is the first house I wanted to visit, Perry Pavilion, so head on inside and make sure to pay a visit to the rear left of the cabin before you leave. Okay, I'm finally ready for the other cabin. Looks like I also need to learn a better morph here, but whatever. There's a knife on the rear right of this place and another on the bathroom. So, I just used my morph and my shift, and I'll have to walk most of the way to Flat Rock, which sucks. But I don't give a Zane's shift. I'm part 6, baby. So it regenerates quick, and I can rely on my charisma to keep you entertained while I get there. I was a little indecisive about which knife I wanted to grab first, but truth be told, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to morph to the second cabin either way. This cabin I start with, though, it never has a name, and it always has 2 knives, and they're always in the same 2 places, on the bathroom and inside. Map D likes to be different, but we'll cover that when I cover Map D. Map D is kind of the bastard of all the maps for Packanack Large. Okay. After I tackle the first cabin, I typically enjoy another piss-poor morph, So do as I say, not as I do, I guess. This cabin has a knife behind the half wall. It's an unnamed cabin. I just gotta chop down this door first. That leaves 1 cabin and 2 knives to go. And this last place, we know this last place. It's Rod Fielder's cabin. Rod Fielder's cabin? Rod Fielder's cabin. Inside, we'll meet the asshole who more than likely locked the only door I've had to chop down all game. And you'll see why he's an asshole in just a minute. Remember to get the 2 knives in the hall. That's the reason you're here. Deal with the asshole some other time. Hopefully, some of this video was predictable at some point. It should be getting there if you've seen the others. And that's a good thing. It made Rod Fielder happy. I mean, look, I guess that's whose picture's on the wall, right? Hopefully, you're learning more strategic ways to collect knives on this map, and using the stuff that I'm going over to make better use of your time in certain areas. There's still 2 more walkthroughs yet to come. But until then, remember, knives end lives. Cheers, everybody, and happy Friday.